Hi, everybody. This is episode 58 of the Alfie Whattam Technology Podcast. I've got quite a special episode today. We've got an expert panel to celebrate the release of our 2022 Software Development Market Report and then get some insight, some industry expert views and opinions into what's happening in the world of software dev right now across the UK. As always, this episode is sponsored by Alpha Technology. So if you're a software developer looking for new opportunities, or if you're a software development manager or a CTO or a business owner looking to hire the best engineers on the market, then welovealpha.com is the place to go for all of your needs. We've got a live Q&A today. So for the people watching this live, we're up to 367 people right now. For those people, please leave your comments in the comment boxes, and there's a little feature next to the comments where you can thumbs up somebody else's comment. So rather than writing the same comment twice, same question twice, just thumbs everybody's up, and we'll pick the best couple at the end of the presentation. Cool. So just before we kick off with the report itself, and I'll show you where to download that, let's just do quick 30-second intros from the panel. I'll share my screen, and we've got an awesome graphic here. There we go. Giuseppe, do you want to kick us off and just tell us a little bit about who you are, please?
Hello, I'm Giuseppe. Nice to meet everyone. And I am currently a CTO for R-Cube Health, where we are developing an app for well-being and anxiety treatment. The app is classified as a medical device, and we have a lot to do to improve it yet.
Awesome. Quite an interesting area, very cutting edge field and sector. And Em, do you want to talk to us all about yourself and who you are?
Hi, my name is Manna. I'm an engineering manager in an organization called Infobip. We are one of the largest application-to-person messaging service provider, and also providers of communication platforms as a service and some SaaS products mainly used in marketing automation and call center support and some chatbot facilities for various B2C type of setup. So yeah, that's me.
Awesome. And Alex, do you want to talk to us all about who you are for a second?
Hello, hi, I'm Alexander Adu-Sarkodie. I'm head of development at Pushologies, and we have a cloud engineering SaaS platform. And what we do is we enable companies to share rich interactive media using notifications. That's what we do.
Cool, thank you, mate. Now, all of you three have been on the show before in the past as individual one-on-one episodes. So if people want to see your individual conversations, go onto Spotify, go to the back catalogue, and you'll be able to find some episodes from, I think, a couple of years ago was the last time I spoke to all you guys one-on-one, but really good to see you again. So just in terms of the report, I'll quickly run everybody through this. All you have to do to get access to the 2022 report is go to welovealpha.com. The website, and then under Expert Insights, you can get access to the data. Also on the front page here as well, under Access Our Report. And then once you get access to that report, you'll essentially be given a download to the actual document itself here. I'll quickly run people through this, but the point of this conversation is more to have a chat about what's happening in the world rather than kind of reading this off the screen to you. And make sure you keep leaving your questions in the chat. I can see quite a few coming through already, so that's really, really good. So the report itself, we surveyed about 5,000 people to gather this data across devs, managers, recruiters, and so on to get a good grasp of what's happening on the market. We've got info on salaries, we've got info on what tech's in demand, what's coming up, what companies should be doing with remote working and ED&I and so on and so forth. One common thing that we found from the report is that the war for talent is as fierce and challenging as it's ever been before. So this document is really about, if you're not finding the developers that you need to grow and hire, maybe you're struggling to find the resources that you want, then are you being competitive enough? Are you doing enough to secure the best? And I guess that's what this report really comes down to. So we've got the data here for all the different salary recommendations that companies are following. Obviously, this is a guide. It's not a Bible. And if people want specific guidance on a particular technology or industry or sector, then give us a call and we can give them all the data they need. It's also got data on average bonuses. And the rest of the UK section, obviously, is quite broad. So if you want a breakdown on your particular city, then of course get in touch with us and we can help with that as well. In terms of market demand, obviously we've got some information here in terms of which technologies you should be focusing on from a modern JavaScript point of view. React being the most in demand, followed by Angular, obviously. More recent versions, obviously JS has become very legacy. On the back end, Java, C#, Python, all still very, very popular, as well as PHP. Whereas some of the other languages like Go and Ruby, very similar results to last year in the respect that that's still where the market share is being held by the big boys still. And then on the mobile respective, it's still similar to what it was last year as well, with it being a very hard area to recruit for, but still a lot of them in the Android and iOS space still in particular. And then from a cutting edge perspective, obviously lots happening in the world that's exciting, from cloud to AI to Web3 and the metaverse and so on and so forth. Some really interesting things here for people to look at, starting to build teams that specialize in these skills, because in a year and 3 years and 5 years, when these become the norm, you'll be way ahead of the curve, obviously. From an interview perspective, the key takeaway that we found is that most companies are now doing 1 to 2 stage interview processes because the average developer is only on the market for a week or so. So any longer than that is a very, very good chance of them being snapped up elsewhere. I mean, for every 1 developer right now, there's 8 companies looking to hire in the UK. So a very big supply and demand issue there. From a remote working perspective, the majority of companies are allowing for fully remote work, about 78% that we surveyed, which is great for developers because 8 out of 10 will only even consider roles right now where they can work from home at least 4 days a week. Obviously, COVID's completely changed the landscape, but that's a good thing for companies because you get the best person in the country, in the world, not just somebody down the road from your office. And then lastly, one of the questions that we always get is, how do we hire more women in technology? How do we hire more BAME individuals and so on and so forth? Well, visa sponsorship, obviously a big area to help with ED&I for companies. And then that's a little bit about the report. Obviously, you can download it where I've showed if people want to check it out themselves. But once again, if you are looking to hire developers, then my contact details are there and always happy to help. So lots of questions in the chat. Thank you all for sharing. In no particular order, we'll get into them. So Prachi is asking, I have a job interview on Friday for my first software developer role for a PHP developer, put in brackets. Any tips to help me succeed? Manna, do you want to kick us off? Give us 1 or 2 minutes of your insights into top tips for Prachi.
I have to be honest first that I am, by background and by history, I'm a Java backend person. Sure. But I would probably say that at this point, any organization that you are going to be interviewing for, and good luck, by the way, for Friday, it's more important to focus on being a problem solver rather than a language agnostic thing, because a lot of organizations now these days, in 21st century, they have evolved into the fact that they would be able to train you and support you. But if you have the right attitude, like you can solve the problem fast, you can get to the bottom of the things fast, because that's what is important. Because often when something needs to be developed, it needs to be developed fast and work fast, and people need to fail fast to move away. So if you have that kind of attitude, it's kind of a recipe for success. Doesn't matter if it's PHP or not. But yes, I would probably say focus on solving the problem rather than learning PHP very strongly. Yeah.
That's good. Yeah, the tech doesn't matter at the end of the day. If you're a problem solver, then that's more important than almost anything else, right? Alexander, what do you think on that area?
I think what I'll suggest first and foremost is to research into the company. Make sure you know what the company does, because then that shows your enthusiasm and then the hunger, to work for the team. So I mean, before you move on to, and that's my personal opinion. Before you move on to the, what is the requirements for the, for the position, being knowledgeable. I suppose that is the first. And again, we tend to feel nervous in interview, which is fine, but then try and be a bit more confident. You can practice and make sure that, your confidence level is ready for the interview. And I think these are the 2 key things that I would really recommend. And finally, of course, you must be worth your salt. You must understand, the job spec. Read the job spec and make sure it's well understood before you present yourself at the interview.
Yeah, the research part is so important. I mean, as somebody that runs a recruitment agency, it blows me away how many candidates will go for an interview and not know what the company does, who the interviewers are, and so on and so forth. So, yeah, definitely good advice. And Giuseppe, what would be your top tips for Prachi?
Yeah, there is not much that I can add because they already said the most important points. I think really understanding if this is the company where you want to work for, because it's your first role and it's very important. And it can really be your first imprinting and you want to have a good one. And the second thing is like, I hate technical questions because I think I never ask questions that you can find the answer on a search engine. I always ask to solve logical questions or problem solving. But, you know, sadly, some companies, they also ask technical questions to upper management people. So you never know. So my suggestion is also for yourself. I find very good the books that are like 100 questions they ask you to solve when you go for interview for Google, you know.
Yeah.
So they are very, very good questions, and the solutions, you can learn a lot from that. Yeah.
Yeah, I like how you basically said the same as Manna by problem solving. It's a very, you know, it's great to hear several of you echoing that point. It clearly shows that it's true. But by far the most popular question that's been upvoted is by Klaus. Klaus asks, what do you think is the most exciting trend at the moment in technology / software development in 2022? Quite a big question. Alex, what comes to your gut when I say kind of cutting edge tech, what's trending, what's exciting? It's going to have a big impact on this year in the world.
Yeah, I think the greatest trends I have witnessed in the past year, it's, you know, or a couple of years, is more of cloud infrastructure technologies. You know, I mean, JavaScript has always been there, but at the same time, you know, you need rapid application development. So, I mean, what we're looking at, you know, having, you know, infrastructure and, you know, tools like serverless and, you know, computing and all that, you know, that facilitates, you know, it accelerates, I mean, you know, development of products as well. So, I mean, I would, you know, I mean, it's not that very difficult because it's only framework or extension of the basic libraries that we have, like Node and JavaScript and CMS systems that have been aggregated to create the cloud infrastructure. So, I mean, I would suggest more, you know, I would, you know, recommend and then, you know, suggest, you know, developers, you know, going more into that sort of area.
Yeah, cloud was the first thing that I mentioned on our report as well when it came to cutting edge technologies. It was by far the most popular answer I've ever got to that question. So clearly it's you know, it's something for people to be focusing on, learning AWS, Azure, or even Google Cloud if they haven't already. What about yourself, Giuseppe? Would you say anything else other than cloud?
Yeah, of course, cloud is the core. I would say there is a lot of advancements in the technology overall, and it's very exciting. I think very, very interesting now is what is happening in the AI with deep learning. Is very, very can make you very enthusiastic or scared of what's happening. And on the other side, I think also the adoption of blockchain, Web3, these technologies are very, very interesting.
Yeah, the AI side is absolutely insane. On some of the more recent episodes I've done recently of the podcast, a lot of people are saying about AI that a lot of companies are saying they're doing AI, but it's more of a marketing thing, obviously, and it's, you know, it's not really AI. But there are a few companies in particular that are really starting to change that trend and make it an actual thing and not just a PR stunt, basically, which is very cool to see in real time it happen. And then Manna, what on your perspective would you say?
I agree with Giuseppe and Alexander a little bit. I would probably try and think, you know, classify, because this panel has variety of audiences, right? So I would probably say, you know, if you think about the back end kind of, you know, front end and then kind of operation, more like of a dev ops sort of whole cycle, then there are various things, right? So agreed, cloud is constantly sought as the new basically premises for deployment, and, you know, to meet the go-to-market, all the startups are looking into it. And in some of the job specs, quite interestingly enough, they always say that, oh, someone with X number of experience with the cloud, but funnily enough, cloud hasn't been there for that long, right? So that's always one of the interesting things to look for. And there are lots of freebies which you can do. You can, get up to speed with some free materials for cloud. But then if you're in the back end, quite a lot of fractions are getting into Kotlin adoption. Well, a lot of Java companies are moving to Kotlin because it's quite clean and it's a different set of user experience. But then some companies are also adopting Golang. So Golang, Kotlin, these are the things. So if your backend is nice things to get into. But then if you are more into the operational side, it's always good to get into Python. It's constantly getting more and more traction, especially in the AI side. I just wanted to connect that. If you're into AI, chances are if you know Python very well, you have a easier time getting into AI, wrangling with some of these things on a day-to-day basis. But yeah, these are kind of my top points in my head.
And also just to add a little bit to it, moving into full stack is one area that I would suggest, software engineers move into full stack, getting the benefits of, working both the front end and the back end as well.
Yeah, it's so important, Alex, right, to get, especially for your first jobs, kind of going back to Prachi's question earlier, if you pick a company and you're just siloed, you're just working on that technology and you don't have exposure. Even full stack developers aren't really full stack, right? They focus on one or the other, but having that exposure to both is really good. And I thought your comment a minute ago, Manna, was quite funny about how on job descriptions, often they'll say for X number of years of this technology when it hasn't even been out for that many years. I saw something on LinkedIn recently about a chap who invented a technology, and he applied for a job where he had to use that technology, and he didn't succeed in his application because it required like 7 years of experience, and he'd only invented it 6 months ago. So it's a funny world, but yeah. Jinder is asking, which also got quite a lot of upvotes, similar to Prachi's question actually, but slightly different. Apart from good technical skills, what else do you look for when hiring developers? Should we go, Manna, do you want to take this one to begin with? So apart from good coding skills, what else is important to you?
For me, the most important thing is the couple of things. Firstly, the attitude. So do you have the right attitude to be here? Are you are you cultured at our team, our organization? So these are the two things. And attitude very specifically is that perseverance and and the grit. So for example, in the interview, a lot of people think, oh, this person is just being quite hard on me. It's too hard. But it's also another way of testing that, can you persevere? Can you work with us? Because you have to work with us for the next, I don't know, 5, 6, 10 years on a day-to-day basis. Are you one of those person who we can work with, who we can agree with, disagree with, resolve conflict? So these are the things I would probably look for first and foremost, other than coding.
Alexander, what would you say?
I think I'll add to that what's just been, resonated. I mean, being part of a team, is what I tend to look for beyond, tech capabilities. You need to be able to work with different, types of, genders, different types of, people's, nerves and all that, and, how to be able to, sustain yourself under pressure as well in a team. So being a team member is one thing I look for. And beyond that, I look for knowledge sharing as well. Having the opportunity, to ask whether something is understood, by your colleagues, and then, taking the opportunity to share, knowledge of what you've done. So, these are amongst the, the most that I would, beyond, what we've just discussed, that I'll be looking for. And finally, I tend to look for, what candidates tend to do beyond, coding, beyond development. You want people to relax, you want people to chill. You don't want people to be micromanaged, all the time as well. So I tend to find out what you tend to do, or we would like to do beyond, coding, and what you can bring to the team. So I suppose, these are some of the, the items that I normally would look for additionally.
Yeah, it's such a good point. I've had so many candidates get jobs, partly because of their coding skills, but partly because on their CV it mentions that they like basketball, and the hiring manager does as well. And then that, starts a conversation, or skiing, or whatever it is really. What about on your end, Giuseppe? What would you say? What do you look for apart from good others?
That is a very difficult question. I think you always find the answer when it's too late.
Yeah.
Yeah, the points that they have been mentioned before, being a team player and a person with the right attitude is good, but how can you find this during the interview is very difficult. What I try to do is to let all the people that are going to work with this person to meet this person and spend time together, you know. Of course, you cannot spend weeks, but, you know, at the end, you can have a big picture of everyone opinion and saying, okay, this person can be, you know, a team player, because it's very important to understand that it's very difficult because especially senior developers, everyone thinks that is the best in the world. So a lot of ego is there. But at the same time, you need to understand that we win as a team, not as individual contributors. So it's very tricky. But
and just to add to what Giuseppe just said, one thing I tend to add is conflict resolutions, because once you are in a team, definitely we are all different characters. So they'll come at a point where you have to resolve conflicts. So whether you are coming as a senior or a junior, I try to find out how you'd resolve conflicts that may come with time.
Yeah, that's such a tricky one, right? I mean, finding somebody that can solve all conflicts, be an amazing senior developer, and have no ego, that would be like the trifecta, the perfect combination. There's a really cool question here from Ben that I like. A little bit simple, but what piece of technology, it could be software, an app, or hardware, has had the most positive impact on your life recently? I know for me, it was probably my mini desk fan during the heat wave we had a couple of weekends ago. That was a lifesaver. But is there any tech, guys, which is just like being like, yes, that is something that I've recommended to a bunch of people, or that's had a really positive impact on my life? Alex, is there anything that comes to mind for you in particular?
Well, if you look what's going on now, we've got different frameworks, we've got different types of technologies, but we still tend to have the basis of how those technologies evolved. Sure. So, I would always, suggest that people look at the, if you're working on the front end, you look for, technology like JavaScript. And of course, it's evolved to, technologies like React, which is a status quo for the front end. Again, depending on where you find yourself, if you're on the mobile front, like it's just been, mentioned, Kotlin is one area that, you have to be looking at as well. And again, Java is still there for Android. And so these are still there. So what I suppose is you first, ensure that, you are picking up a job with the qualified sort of, disciplines. And then, you can always, build upon that. But of course, you've got to look, waiting for challenges as well, expecting challenges.
For yourself, Giuseppe, would you also say it's something quite technical, or would you say it's more of a product for you that's had an impact, or a technology, or what sticks out? Dan's question.
Yeah. Today in the software development, there is so many technologies involved that you don't know where to start. It can be, easy to deploy code, or I can say like how Amazon can be using I don't know, Git to imagine your life without Git. Yeah. Or like for the mobile development, and now we are using Flutter, that is great, so you don't have to take care of the differences between the Android and iOS. This is like, it's so huge, the environment where we work now today, that is very difficult to say which one is the part that is very important. And sometimes it's the one that is always your problem, like for CI/CD in the easiest way, you don't notice, but it's there. That is very important also.
Yeah, very broad question, Ben. But Manna, what would you say?
A broad question indeed, and I somewhat echo with what Giuseppe just said. The most important thing is that every organization, when there's a successful product, you will often see that the hidden story behind successful product is that there would be millions and billions of tech debts, there are millions and billions of bad practices, but the most important thing is the product is successful, which means you have a constant development cycle, constant kind of stream of changes, and the possibilities are unlimited. An example is, just because a lot of people, they don't know how to work with NoSQL databases, does that mean that they are not important. Of course not. It's again coming back to the attitude, right? And also the successful product. So being able to work with a successful product, understand how to solve problems with what we have, i.e. frugal development, I would say these are way more impactful than sticking to a technology or sticking to some kind of flashy Google thing that say, oh, this database is the new generation cutting edge to go. Well, maybe, but it's not going to make my company additional 20% margin of the year, so why do it, right? So a lot of developers in the early stages, they wouldn't understand that, but as people mature through the experience, they understand what is truly impactful. So I guess it's a very broader question at this stage to really answer in this podcast.
Good, no problem. If we do a final question, it's quite a long one from Samson, so I'll paraphrase it. And I guess just if we do one sentence rapid fire answers to finish off will be awesome. So Samson's just been promoted to his first lead developer role. Have you got any tips for him to start managing people effectively? I think I know who you are, Samson. I think we spoke the other day. I think it's a small team. I might be mistaken, but I'm pretty sure it's the same chap, the same profile picture anyway. What would be your one or two sentences? Giuseppe, what tips would you give from a leadership perspective to Samson?
Oh, it comes to my mind a book that I think the title is Becoming a Tech Leader. Okay. That is a very, very powerful book, but I think everyone should read it, not just a tech leader.
Okay, cool. So read books. That's an easy one, simple one. Alex, what would be your nugget of wisdom?
Well, I'll suggest collaboration, one, and then secondly, not micromanaging.
Yeah.
Try and balance what it is, because not micromanaging can be a downside as well, because you have to balance it and make sure that you give people time to work, and in between the times, at favorable times, you can call on them and find out feedback. That's what I'm saying. Especially
if you're still expected to code as well, because if you're going to be coding, but you're spending all your time managing other people, you're not going to get any of your own work done as well. So that's a good distinction. And Manna, what would be your nugget to finish us off?
Very quickly, three things. Firstly, get yourself a mentor. Find out who you want to be or who you want to be better than. As an engineering leader. And then the second thing is slowly learn how to let go, because holding on to your work it's very difficult. It's a cultural thing. And the third thing is always try and celebrate people who you think are going to be better than you, because that's the purpose of being an engineering leader. If you cannot find somebody or group of people who are going to be even better than you, that means, you need to do a lot more hard work. So look out for those three things constantly.
Cool. All right. Well, thank you so much, guys, for your time. Really, really appreciate it. And thank you for everybody for watching as well. Just to remind people, if you want a free copy of the report, just go to welovealpha.com and you can download it on the homepage. If you've got any specific questions about salaries, about market data, about what's happening, about which sectors are hot, then give us a call. More than happy to help. And once again, thank you to the panel. Thank you, guys.
Thank you
very much. Thanks for having us.
Have a good day. Thank you, guys.
Bye.
Bye for now.
Bye.
Bye.
Imagine if you were able to hire the next Elon Musk. Or if you got a job at Facebook, back when it was just a startup. Well, these people and these opportunities, they are still out there, and we have access to them. Access to all of them. At Alpha Technology, we specialise in software development recruitment across London and the UK. From React to Java to C# and more. We represent the best front-end, back-end, and full-stack engineers on the market. This includes top developers from Meta, Amazon, Apple, Netflix, Google, and more. Our clients operate across AI, blockchain, VR, AR, fintech, edtech, health tech, and more. From startups to global enterprises and everything in between. But Alpha isn't just a recruitment agency. We are also a tech community. We host podcasts, run meetup events, and lead ED&I initiatives, supporting women in technology, BAME individuals, and the Tech for Good ecosystem. So, if you're a company looking to hire software engineers, or if you're a developer open to new opportunities yourself, then we are here to help. Alpha Technology. Recruiting for the future.